They said my chickens were too loud and unfit for the neighborhood. But those hens were more than just animals. They were family. When the HOA threatened to have them removed, they had no idea I wasn't just a backyard farmer. I was a small-town legend in the making. What started as a petty complaint turned into a statewide spectacle, and by the end, my chickens didn't just stay, they became protected mascots of our entire town, clucking trouble in Maplewood. My name is Benjamin Carter, but most folks around Maplewood just call me Chicken Ben. I never asked for the nickname, it found me. Just like the small flock of hens that wandered into my yard one rainy spring morning and never left. I live on a modest corner property, the kind passed down generations. My grandfather built the porch with his own hands, and the oak tree in the back has seen more family barbecues than I can count. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. After my wife passed away 5 years ago, the house got quieter, too quiet. My daughter had moved states away, and the loneliness crept in like a fog. That's when the chickens came. 6 hens, brown, noisy, curious, and somehow exactly what I needed. At first, I just fed them scraps. Then I built a small coop under the oak tree. I started learning their rhythms. They'd cluck when the mail arrived, line up when I called, and even follow me around the yard like feathery little shadows. I named them after old jazz singers, Ella, Billy, Nina, Etta, Dinah, and Sarah. And they gave me something in return: routine, purpose, and surprisingly good eggs. Neighbors waved. Kids walking to school would stop to watch. Some families even brought their toddlers by on weekends just to see Ben's famous ladies. But not everyone appreciated them. The HOA president, Janice Thorne, had always had a sharp tongue and a sharper glare. A woman with too much free time and not enough empathy. Her house sat diagonally across from mine, pristine as a picture book. Not a leaf out of place. And not a single smile ever cracked her face. It started small. Notes in my mailbox about property standards. Then an official warning claiming the chickens were a nuisance to the peaceful harmony of the neighborhood. I ignored the first 2 letters, but the third one came certified. Remove all livestock within 14 days or face daily fines of $200. Livestock. As if I were running a full-blown farm. As if these hens weren't just companions helping an old man deal with grief. I asked to attend the next HOA meeting to explain myself. I brought a photo of each hen, smiling kids petting them, and even a basket of fresh eggs. But the moment I stood to speak, Janice cut me off. "Mr. Carter," she said, looking over her glasses like a school principal, "this is a residential community, not a barnyard petting zoo." My hands shook. They helped me with my anxiety. After my wife died, "This is not a therapy session," she snapped. "We've received noise complaints, and some residents claim your chickens are wandering. They never leave the yard." Another board member, a younger guy named Mason, tried to chime in. "To be fair, Janice, I haven't heard any noise, and a lot of families—" But she silenced him with a glare. The decision was made. I had 10 days to rehome my livestock, or the HOA would take legal action. I walked home that night with a heavy heart. The hens greeted me at the gate like always, clucking in unison, unaware of the storm coming. I didn't sleep. The next day, I called my daughter, Maria. "I might lose them," I said, voice cracking. "What? Dad, they're not just chickens, they're your therapy, your companions." I tried to explain, but the HOA, she cut me off. "Let me make some calls." Maria was a community outreach officer in a nearby town, with connections in animal welfare and local government. If anyone could help, it was her. By the weekend, she showed up at my door with her 2 kids, some clipboards, and a plan. "Let's go public," she said. "We'll start with a petition. Show the HOA how many people support your chickens, and if they still try to remove them, we'll go legal." We knocked on doors. I was stunned. Nearly every family on our street signed the petition. One mom even wrote, "My toddler learned to say chicken because of Ben's hens." Another elderly neighbor wrote, "Seeing those birds every morning lifts my spirits." Maria posted a photo online of me holding Sarah, the sassiest hen, with the caption, HOA threatens to evict Grandpa's backyard chickens. Let's save them. It went viral. By Monday, local news wanted an interview. Janice Thorne was livid. She came storming to my gate that afternoon. "This is slander. You've turned this into a circus." I stood tall, Sarah perched on my shoulder like a parrot. "No, Janice, I turned it into a conversation. These hens helped save me. Now I'm going to save them." She threatened legal action again, but what she didn't know was I wasn't just a quiet old man with some birds anymore. I had momentum. Three days after my daughter's photo of me and Sarah the hen hit social media, my life transformed from peaceful backyard routines to the chaos of attention. By Thursday morning, I had reporters on my front lawn, students from the nearby college creating TikToks about Grandpa Ben's chicken rebellion, and two local restaurants messaging me asking if I'd let my hens visit their farm-to-table launch events. It was ridiculous and glorious. But the best part? People cared. The online petition reached 12,000 signatures in 2 days, and someone, I still don't know who, started printing bumper stickers that read, "Cluck the HOA, save Ben's hens." Maria and I organized a small rally for Saturday morning. We expected maybe 20 people. Instead, nearly 200 showed up. Families, seniors, high schoolers with signs, and even the mayor himself, Mayor Linda Carmichael, stepped onto my lawn and gave me a hug. "This community," she said in front of the cameras, "was built on family, tradition, and heart. If a few chickens can bring joy to a neighborhood, they belong here more than any policy that says otherwise." The crowd erupted. Janice Thorne, who stood across the street with her arms folded tightly across her crisp beige sweater, looked like she had bitten into a lemon. That Monday, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. This time, the community came with me. Dozens packed the clubhouse, cameras rolled, journalists sat along the wall. Janice tried to call order with her usual icy tone, but no one listened. Mason, the younger board member, finally stepped up. "We've received over 100 letters from residents," he said, holding a stack. "Not a single one supports removing Mr. Carter's chickens." Janice raised her voice. "That's irrelevant. The policy is clear." "No, Janice," Mason interrupted firmly. "The policy is vague, outdated, and frankly cruel." She flushed red. Another board member, Mrs. Lively, spoke next. "When I lost my husband, Ben's chickens were the only reason I left the house. Watching them helped me heal. This isn't about birds. It's about healing, hope, and heart." I had tears in my eyes. I hadn't realized how far their presence had rippled. But Janice wasn't backing down. "In that case," she hissed, "we'll bring in legal counsel. This is a liability issue now. Chickens spread disease, create noise, and devalue property." The crowd booed. But Mayor Carmichael, who had slipped in quietly, stood up and raised a hand. "Actually," she said, "as mayor, I've issued a temporary order recognizing Mr. Carter's chickens as community emotional support animals under the City Livability Clause." Janice blinked. "That's not legal." "Yes, it is," the mayor said, holding up a signed document. "And if this HOA wants to push further, they'll have to do so under public scrutiny. Good luck with that." The room exploded in cheers. Janice's mouth opened, then closed. She grabbed her folder and stormed out. It wasn't just a win, it was a shift. The HOA was still technically intact, but their authority had been shattered in the eyes of the people. That night, I sat on the porch with Maria and the hens surrounding my feet. "They really saved you, didn't they, Dad?" she said. I looked at Sarah. "They did more than that. They gave me a reason to keep going." The moonlight glinted off the coop roof. For once, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt full. But I should have known Janice wasn't done. 1 week later. A white envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a court summons. Janice had filed an injunction under a newly unearthed clause in the HOA charter. She had found a technicality. The land my house sat on was listed as Class 2 residential, which, in theory, could be used to argue against livestock maintenance. Maria sighed. She's grasping at straws, but we'll fight it. We hired a lawyer, pro bono from one of the supporters who happened to specialize in property law. And that's when the twist none of us saw coming arrived. During a review of the HOA charter, our lawyer found something buried in the original documents, something not even the current board knew. My grandfather, Harold Carter, had been the first president of the Maplewood Neighborhood Association back in 1958, and when he stepped down in 1969, he added a clause that granted his property immunity from future policy changes, unless revoked by unanimous vote of the board. We had it in writing, signed, sealed, still active. Maria gasped when she read it. "You're untouchable, Dad." I laughed so hard I cried. Janice had gone to war over chickens, and she'd just picked a fight with the man whose family helped build the neighborhood, and the only man whose home she couldn't touch. The hens clucked in celebration. So did I. Cluck back. Stronger. I thought the discovery of my grandfather's immunity clause would end everything. That Janice Thorne would retreat, licking her wounds while Sarah and the hens could cluck in peace. I was wrong. The court dismissed Janice's injunction, citing the legacy exemption clause. But she didn't just want to win. She wanted revenge. And now she changed her strategy from legal to psychological. It started subtly. 2 days later, I woke up to find my coop eggless. All 5 hens seemed spooked, feathers scattered across the backyard. I checked the wire, intact. No sign of predators. I reviewed my security footage. At 3:42 a.m., the feed cut out for exactly 13 minutes. By the time I could get Maria to help me retrieve the cloud backup, the data was gone. Deleted. Deliberately. That same day, HOA members began getting emails from a concerned neighbor, stating that my chickens were vectors for potential salmonella outbreaks and were causing asthma attacks in children. The emails referenced fake CDC data and included blurry photos of feathers near sidewalks. I knew they were taken from my backyard trash bin. Then came the rumors. One neighbor claimed she saw rats in my backyard. Another said her dog had gotten sick from chicken fumes. I started getting cold shoulders from neighbors who had once signed the petition to protect the hens. Maria was furious. "This is textbook manipulation. She's trying to turn your allies against you." I sighed. "It's working." Then it got personal. One morning I found graffiti on my front fence. Someone had scrawled, "Cluck you, Grandpa." That hit harder than I expected, not just because it was vulgar, but because of how far this had gone. I'd been a part of this neighborhood since 1972. I helped organize the first street potluck, planted the maple tree in the park, gave away pumpkins to kids every Halloween. Now I was being treated like a pariah because I loved a few hens. Maria took action. She posted a video online calling out the harassment. She showed the empty nest boxes, the graffiti, and the deleted footage timestamps. It went viral again. Within 24 hours, we had 80,000 views and an outpouring of support from people across the country. One comment read, "If HOA Karens hate this man, I probably love him." But support wasn't enough, not now. We needed protection. So we filed a civil harassment complaint against Janice Thorne, backed by signed affidavits from neighbors, the mayor's office, and our legal team. That forced the HOA to call another emergency vote, the special vote. The HOA board, under pressure, arranged a meeting at the community center. Hundreds attended. News vans lined the street. Janice stood at the podium, rigid in her tan blazer. Her face was unreadable. Mason, the young board member who had once been quiet, took the mic. "We've reviewed the civil complaint, the history of harassment, and the exemption clause. It is the unanimous opinion of the board that Janice Thorne be formally removed as HOA president effective immediately. The crowd gasped. Janice's face turned ghost white. "This is a witch hunt," she snapped. Mason stayed calm. "This is accountability." Janice stormed out again, but this time she didn't just lose a battle. She lost her power. Restoring peace. Within a week, things turned around. The new interim HOA president, Mrs. Lively, visited me personally. "Ben," she said, "we owe you an apology, and your girls, too." She handed me an envelope, a formal letter revoking all citations, lifting all restrictions, and recognizing my chickens as official community support animals with full protection under HOA policy. I smiled. "Thank you, but let's go further." She raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "I propose converting a section of the unused community garden into a small educational pet zone where kids could visit the hens, learn about sustainability, and bond with nature." She loved the idea. A month later, we held the opening ceremony. Kids held handmade signs, elderly residents cried tears of joy, and even the mayor came again, this time bringing the city council. Sarah, the hen, became the honorary mascot of the town's spring festival. She even got a tiny sash. One last letter. Weeks later, I received a handwritten letter. It was from Janice Thorne. "Ben, I still think chickens don't belong in neighborhoods, but I underestimated you, and I let my pride ruin everything. I hope you enjoy your little kingdom of feathers. I'm moving to Florida. Don't worry, no HOA there. Janice." I chuckled. Maria looked over my shoulder. "Think she means it?" I folded the letter and said, "Honestly, I don't care." Because at that moment, Sarah flapped her wings, let out a proud cluck, and pecked at the porch bell. She'd figured out how to ring it when she wanted snacks. I laughed, and for the first time in months, I felt peace. Real peace. Feathers of Freedom. The town's spring festival had never seen a crowd this large. Rows of tents lined the sidewalk. Children with painted faces held small handmade signs that said things like "Cluck Lives Matter" and "Sarah for Mayor." The mayor laughed. My beloved hen, perched atop a custom-made miniature float, wearing her signature red ribbon and an actual satin sash that read "Community Hero." I stood beside her, feeling more proud than I had in years. Life after Janice. With Janice Thorne officially out, the HOA board underwent a complete transformation. Maria was unanimously voted in as Community Engagement Chair, and within weeks, she'd arranged neighborhood dinners, conflict resolution sessions, and even free gardening workshops for seniors. The atmosphere changed almost overnight. The same neighbors who had once whispered and crossed the street now stopped by to chat. Many apologized. Some brought treats for the chickens. One little girl brought Sarah a handmade bracelet. And as for me, I was asked to lead the HOA History and Heritage Committee, a polite way of saying, "We're sorry we doubted you, old man." The bigger idea. One evening, Maria and I sat on the porch sipping lemonade. The girls, Sarah, Millie, Betsy, Clover, and Joan, were scratching happily in the dirt nearby. Maria turned to me and said, "You know, this shouldn't just be about you or about chickens." I raised an eyebrow. She continued, "What if we created something lasting, a nonprofit, one that protects small home farms and backyard animals in HOA communities across the country?" I blinked. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." I thought about it, about how many letters and emails we'd gotten from people in Colorado, Texas, even Florida, all facing similar harassment, being told that their lifestyle didn't fit their HOA's aesthetic. People who didn't have the resources I had, or a Maria. "Let's do it," I said. We named it Cluckback Alliance. The day our official launch video went up, the response was immediate. Donations poured in. Lawyers volunteered to join. One city council even asked us to consult on humane urban farming guidelines. But what I didn't expect was a call from 60 Minutes. They wanted to do a story, not just about the chickens, but about what it meant to stand up to overreach, using empathy instead of anger. And they wanted to film the final segment at our little community garden, now transformed into an educational co-op center. When the cameras rolled, I introduced each hen by name, told their story, and showed how each had her own little shelter, feeder, and decorated nameplate. Sarah, of course, stole the show by hopping into the reporter's lap and pecking his mic. My letter to the HOA. The night before the broadcast aired, I sat down to write a letter. Not to Janice, not even to the board, but to the community. Dear neighbors, we've been through a lot. Some of it was funny, some of it was hurtful. But I want you to know this was never about chickens. It was about respect, about remembering that rules don't make communities. People do. And if we can laugh together, forgive each other, and grow gardens instead of grudges, then maybe we can make this a place we're proud to call home. Cluck on, Ben. Maria read it and gave me a nod. Perfect. One last sunrise. I woke early that morning, way before the cameras or the crowd. I went out to the garden and sat near Sarah's perch. The air was crisp, the sky brushed in gold. Sarah waddled over, jumped onto my lap and nestled there, warm and heavy. I looked out at the coop, the greenhouse, the fresh mulch Maria had laid around the walkways. Peace. Not because we won a fight, but because we changed something. We made a neighborhood see itself differently. We made kindness louder than control. Final scene. The 60 Minutes piece aired to over 14 million viewers. The final image? A wide shot of me and Sarah walking down the community path, with kids running behind us, and a banner overhead that read, "Welcome to Clucksville, where every voice counts, even if it clucks."